Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Make the Jump here from the BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network. This is Robin Vogt here, of course, the host of Make the Jump. And of course, sitting across from me on this episode is my longtime friend from Exeter, New Hampshire, the Brick City itself, and always a great chance to talk with him. You might have seen him maybe in some videos in the background. He finds a way into them, and he's a really great friend of mine. It's Mr. Scotty Twombly himself. Scotty, how's it going?
Great to be here, Robin. Happy to be on the show for the first time. I know we've been trying to plan this for like a month, but things get in the way.
Yes.
I'm glad that you finally got over the straps. And you
Yeah.
know me, it's the guy who keeps showing up in the Krypton videos for some reason.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Anytime we do one of those events, Scotty's always there, and he's always. I mean, you've donated cans um, to the foundation that we work with, and you've helped us share out some of the Starlight stuff on Facebook before, which is awesome. So I really appreciate that, and it's so great to have you finally on, man. I mean, we've been friends for Lord knows how long, and
I think since our since early teens, like 12, 13.
yeah, it's crazy, and it's amazing how much in terms of our fandom too. Like, I feel like we were always friends. We were hanging out. We were playing video games. We were doing things. I would stay over. We would have hot pockets. We would stay up
Uh,
late. I would fall asleep early, but
I remember, I remember one funny time you were almost about to have to cancel, and all of a sudden I mentioned pizza, and then all of a sudden you found a way. With
pizza
barbecue,
is a
it
yeah.
was barbecue chicken with extra cheese.
That's enough to make sure plans are changed too when
Uh,
you have that kind of pizza.
yeah, it's a good pizza.
It really is. It's one of my favorites
I just
too, which is
again,
just so awesome.
I'm so happy to be here. It's like I mean, I help you guys as much as I can. I may not be out there, but like I help. I'm in videos. You said before, it's like I may not be one, but I'm an honorary member of the podcast. Almost, you said.
Yeah, you're a blockader, man. You're part of our family, and it's so awesome when we have those interactions and everything, and it's really really cool. So listen, why you're on tonight is number one. I wanted to have you on the podcast at some point here, and number two, Scotty has actually it was like almost like a thing that we discussed a while back here. It's like Scotty has this his a bridge of mind when it comes to video games and looking at different aspects of it. And Scotty, I actually kind of gave you a little bit of a task if you want to tell the good people about that.
Well, for everyone watching, I am here to give a video game review on a Star Wars game. Obviously, the hardest part of that was choosing a game that I can give an objective opinion on without having the entire fandom, or at least half of it, go, and no point to the reference in any of its forms.
True, true.
Uh, but, yep, for tonight's review, I will be doing one of my favorite Star Wars games, Star Wars Trilogy Arcade.
Yes, yes,
Of yours as well.
absolutely.
It came out in the 90s. It is a beautiful on-rail shooter. So I suppose let's get into it.
Yes, absolutely.
Start off, you have a beautiful. It's basically in one of those booth things where you sit down and it's almost got the same
Mhm.
sides, but basically the
Right,
first part it gives sound. You really feel like you're there. The game,
right, right.
the game has 3 base stages, 2 boss stages, and a secret final stage. In
Mhm.
lieu of like full review, in a sense, I'm going to be giving a follow through of the game, so to speak.
Right, right.
Yes, it follows. And oh man, I'm gonna need your help here. 4, 5, and 6,
Yes.
original or prequel trilogy?
So that would be the original trilogy. That would be A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, you have to remember, my knowledge isn't for the movies. Gasp! He doesn't watch the movies, but I'm
I
more
like
in,
that.
I'm more into the games and the shows. But it gives me
Yes.
a viewpoint. Every time I've said I've never seen the movies, the collective gasp and horror on people's faces says enough.
It's amazing.
Point.
Yes.
Yeah, well, first, you get to choose from the 3 stages in any order. You can go 4, 5, or 6. 4 has you taking on the first Death Star. The middle stage has you on Hoth, and the final stage has you on It's Yavin 4, right? The shield generator?
Yes, correct, correct.
I'm just making sure. I'm understandably nervous. Even though I have a script to go on, these mistakes can still be made.
Of course, of course.
First things first, our first stage is attacking the first Death Star. It starts off in space, obviously. You are in an X-Wing. You are blasting through space, taking on the enemy fighters, taking down some Star Destroyers, attacking ships. The graphics, they may not be perfect, but they were great for their time. You can clearly tell what everything is supposed to be, which is
That's
a
true.
plus for that kind of thing. They may look like giant gray triangles, but at the same time, they're shaded and done so delicately with just the right amount of details. It's not
True.
overdone, like for its time, so they can put everything on it. You can tell exactly what it's supposed to be.
Right.
At segment, I should mention, each stage has 3 separate segments, which have a loading screen in between, which is short, that shows your score, and with you bolting straight towards the ship with some fighters by your side. There's a
Right.
special feature of the game, a event button. You press it when things are going and things happen. The event button for this stage brings in some reinforcements to help you blast away the ships in your path. And it ends after you reach the end of that segment. You are at the end of segment 1, at which you reach segment 2. Skimming along the surface. Not the trench run yet, just like along the surface of it with the guard towers and everything. This part culminates in an interesting little thing, a mini boss fight. You fight Darth Vader in his TIE. It's TIE Defender, right?
Correct. It would be his TIE Defender.
I couldn't remember if it was a TIE Defender or TIE Advanced.
Oh yeah, the TIE Advanced were the ones that followed next to him during NAS.
You fight him and a pair of those. You have to take down his subordinates, and then you can damage his ship. He flies away, and it starts into segment 3, the trench run.
Yes.
This one is a long gauntlet where you have to basically end it by firing a proton torpedo into it while dealing with the above. I like the attention to detail here. For like, you actually have to try and aim and fire, and if you miss, it even says negative, didn't go in. It has the nice touches to it, like if you succeed and fail in certain stuff.
Right, right.
You get through that, and it ends that area, that stage, with a little shot of you flying away from the Death Star as it explodes. Since we're on the subject of that movie, what are your thoughts on the movie? Is it good?
It's interesting because I think A New Hope is the one that I feel like a lot of people would be like, that's Star Wars. That's the one that came out in 1977, and it's the one that, yeah, essentially. And
it made
it's,
without it.
Right. And it's iconic to Star Wars, but it's funny. Out of all the films, it's the one that's just nice. The other ones do so much more story building.
Well, you have to remember, though, they had no clue how much they were going to be able to get out of it in the end. It could have been a huge flop for all they know, and they would have had to cancel it. So they had to play it safe.
Right. That's a good point.
But after that, we get to the second stage. I like to do these stages in order, so we will be journeying to Hoth for the battle against the shield generator. It starts out It starts out in a snowspeeder. You're helping your allies. You're taking on the giant walking camels. And you get the glorious part of hitting the event button to bring down one of these monstrous behemoths using a tow cable, if you're fast enough. It is glorious and fun. I don't remember this one fully at the end. I don't remember if your ship gets shot down or not, but if it does, bonus points for realism, because segment 2 has you in the base, has you in like a first-person shooter perspective, like as I mentioned, shooter, gunning down soldiers and taking on wampas. Now, here's what I really enjoy about this part. Since it's not like one of those big laser ship guns where you could just like literally fire nonstop, your blaster has an overheat meter. You keep firing it too much, you're going to let it cool down. And bonus points for having rebels get in the way and R2-D2 and C-3PO. I mean, I don't know if this is true in the movie, but it's total chaos in there basically going on. Everyone's trying to just survive or take cover. So you have to deal with like avoiding them and killing your enemies before they can kill you.
Right, right.
And then it culminates in the final part, reaching the hangar, trying to get to the Millennium Falcon. You start dashing forward, you get through there, more guns and enemies, and then culminating in a mini boss fight where you turn around, take some more enemies, and then fight a slightly bigger Wampa. To be honest, I feel like this would have been better if like maybe there was a point like with if Darth Vader came in with like some stormtroopers and you had to try to shoot them while the ship was powering up or something. I mean, just like another generic Wampa. Were there even Wampas in that base during that scene?
It's interesting because in the cutscenes from it, there were Wampas, but they were removed for the principal photography of the film and never actually made it into the final cut.
So it could be considered non-canon for them to be there.
Essentially, yes.
Although I suppose it could make a little bit sense for the player, like, these things are clearly the bad guys. So not like everything has to be a guessing game if they're a newbie.
Correct.
But I will say I enjoy the stage, but like I said, the end fight could have been like a little bit better in that regard. I mean, like
Right.
how cool would it have been to just like see Vader come in with a legion and you have to gun them down if the ship's finally finishing its final preparations for takeoff?
It's true. It's true.
You leaving the base just in time.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
now after this point, we have one of the two special stages I was talking about. You get one after beating 2 stages and one after beating 3 stages. The special stages, while enjoyable, do suffer some mechanical issues. I mean, the
Right.
controls, you're basically like free-handing with a lightsaber with a joystick. The controls are unfortunately very clunky. And I almost have never been able to succeed at them because if you fail even one attack move, even if you survive till the end of the fight, you lose the fight no matter what if you miss even one attack.
Right. Right.
The first fight is against Boba Fett over the Sarlacc pit.
Right.
And what happens is it shows a series of arrows. Red to block with your lightsaber, and when the greens show up, you have to switch it to one side and then immediately bring it down the cross side to reflect his bolts back at him. If you
Mm-hmm.
win the
Mm-hmm.
fight, you take out his jetpack, if I remember right, and he goes down into the pit.
Right.
Then, if not, he kills you. Actually, I'd like to bring up a question since we're on the subject. I know in
Yeah.
the extended canon he originally gets out alive, but I heard that when Disney erased all of that extra canon, he stayed dead now. Is that true? Or
Mm-hmm.
that?
It's funny because there's been a lot of talk about whether we play the Legends card where he survives or whether we play the canon card, which is he doesn't survive. And there's this weird balance in the fandom of whether he survives or not. And I think right as of right now, I think a lot of people would like him to survive.
He's a cool character. I'd like to see him survive.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I really do. I think he's a worthy character to survive, and I think that there wasn't enough of his story fleshed out to be able to kill him off and say, "Oh, okay, he's gone." I think you have to build it out more.
To be fair, from what I've heard in the original canon, he somehow gets stuck in that pit 3 separate times.
I know, isn't that crazy?
How do you get caught in a stationary thing the size of a building 3 times? If I was him, I'd be staying as far away from that planet at all costs.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but that leads us to our third mission. Yavin 4, if I'm remembering correctly. No, wait. Forest Moon. Dang it, now I'm mixed up.
It's okay. It's okay.
The Forest Moon is Endor. Yavin 4 is for the Death Star battles.
Yes. Yes.
But it starts you off on a speeder bike. You're taking down, you can either like one-shot the guards off their bikes, or you can chip away at the bike's health bars and make them explode, which honestly is fun, because you have to worry about more than just the troopers. If your steering is really bad, because you have to control steering and shooting in that segment, you can hit trees and branches, dealing damage to yourself. Which is not fun in the heat of a battle. But at least realism is being taken into account here. That's something I like.
That's a good point.
The second segment has you charging up towards the shield bunker while dealing with the standard rebel not the rebels, the Imperials, with occasionally
Yep.
having to avoid hitting Ewoks. This
True.
is nothing special, but it is a brilliant lead up to the final stage, another mini boss fight, and one of the best ones against the Laser Chicken. Call a spade.
Yeah.
The giant walker. It's got chicken legs. It's basically shaped like a chicken. It shoots lasers. I don't care what it's called. In my eyes, it will always be the Laser Chicken.
Yes. Yes. Agreed.
I mean, to quote one of my favorite shows of all time, Invader Zim, it's got chicken legs.
Good quote. I like that one.
Off topic, I cannot wait for the movie for that coming out.
Oh, that's super. I'm super excited as well.
Actually, interesting fact, it actually follows the first episode of the comics, which is a continuation of the show. See, in the first issue of the comic, Vim intentionally went into hiding for many years, making Dib grotesque and fat. It's horrifying because his plan actually works.
Oh, that is funny.
It's hilarious. Then he then goes into a montage where he turns into like this super Hulk thing, and then when he finally meets them, he goes like, I actually went way too far. I actually had to step back a bit before I could even get out of my house. It was creepy. But I loved that show growing up.
Oh, wonderful show. Wonderful show.
The old shows from your past you missed growing up?
Oh, man. I think it's interesting because Sean Michaud and I recently, on an episode of The Home Show, did our favorite 90s television shows. And I think the one for me that really stands out is Angry Beavers.
I have your series. Loved that show. I got an interesting.
It's so great.
Too.
Yeah.
The final episode is canceled because they violated Nickelodeon's #1 rule at the time: no fourth wall breaking. It was an April Fool's. Only audio has been released online, but it was an April Fool's Day episode where they basically just showed the entire, like, the way they performed and stuff. Like, they were.
Oh, jeez.
And they explained that kind of stuff. It's a funny listen.
Oh, that's funny.
I loved that show growing up, especially Muscular Beaver. Loved that stuff. My favorite one of those has to be the second one where Dag keeps nagging about the helmet. My favorite line of that: I hope you had your you-know-what on! When North literally gets crushed by a giant rock reaching for his helmet. And in the end, the helmet, which he gets enraged about, he literally throws it away in rage, and it saves the day. Joking. He holds up his fist in rage, throws it behind him. It shows it boomeranging. The giant beast is coming out of a giant infinity hole. It clangs it in the head. They look back.
Right.
Falls back into the abyss.
Oh, man.
You cannot make comedy up like that nowadays.
No, you really can't.
Another good one from the 90s. I think it was 90s. Rocko's Modern Life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't wait for
that. Absolutely.
Ew.
That's going to be good.
Oh my god, I have gotten us completely off track. I am so sorry.
That's okay. No. Continue where you were left off.
Alright. We left off after we had just finished the third episode, which brings us to our second boss fight. Darth Vader while dealing with the Emperor. It's the same, obviously, as the Boba Fett fight, but the attacks are a little faster. The intensity is a bit stronger. And basically, there is dialogue at the end of this fight if you win or lose, because you don't die. Basically, if you lose, he says your training is not yet complete. And if he wins, I assume it's if you win, I assume it's the dialogue from the movie. But I have heard, cannot confirm this, but I have heard, if you hit the event button while Vader's on the ground, you sheath your lightsaber and the Emperor has bonus dialogue for you. Unconfirmed. I have not been able to test this. There are no war machines of the game around me. If someone can test that theory for me, I'd love to hear it.
Right.
But that brings us up to our final segment. And if you'd like to say a couple words while I grab a swig of water, be happy to.
No, I mean, I think that it's interesting when it comes to the world of Star Wars gaming because, and what Scotty's described up to this point, I think is fascinating because I remember playing the original trilogy game and having such an amazing experience with it. And now that you've been talking about it, I'm kind of reflecting on those different stages. And I was young when I played it.
You were really excited for me to do this review when you heard what I was doing.
Yes, absolutely, because I had so many great experiences.
It's in my top three of arcade shooters. For those
Yes.
wondering, my number one is LA Machine Guns, the greatest one I've ever played.
Hmm.
And my number two is the Point Blank series. I think it's either Point Blank or Point Break. It's the one with like the Ernie and Bert style like animations, and you have to like shoot the
Oh, yes.
targets or blast the barrels to protect the knights or stuff like that.
I think that is Point Blank. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I know I have the DS game. I should dig it up later.
Mm.
But as I was saying, we get to our final stage, the Death Star 2.
Yes.
This starts off like the first Death Star stage, blasting through space, destroying everything in your path. Interestingly, in this one though, if your aiming is true enough and quick enough, you can actually take down one of the Star Destroyers.
Mm, isn't
Because
that interesting?
it gives you opportunity to take down its turrets and the two shield generator things. Which
That's right.
makes me bring up another question. Those things would be pretty much freaking indestructible if they put the shield generators inside the ship.
Isn't that a good point? I thought about that actually.
Bring up another thing. How devastating! I'm just saying here, a railgun. That would be downright devastating to ships in the Star Wars era because it's basically a giant. You're basically not firing energy. It would basically pierce straight through shields. You're basically firing a long iron rod at extreme velocity.
Correct.
That would pierce right through shields. That kind of move would be devastating. Have the movies ever
Yes.
done anything like that?
It's interesting because I think the first time we kind of see that a little bit, and Star Wars fans can correct me if I'm wrong, but is in Rogue One. And
Isn't
this
that
is
a
in
prequel
during
to most of the stuff though?
it's interesting. This is before the events of A New Hope. And it's literally 12 hours before the events of A New Hope. And what's interesting is there actually is a turret gun on one of the ships that's flying over Scarif, and it's taking out the stormtroopers, but it doesn't have the kickback, like an electrical kickback or
I mean,
a energy
some.
kickback.
It's gonna have some kickback, obviously, of recoil, but
Right.
uh,
It's going to have a recoil, but there's no energy being thrown back out. It's legitimately like a machine gun.
yeah, so lower heat dispersal, faster rate of fire, more damaging. Don't have to worry about shields.
That's it. And
And
the
it would be
funny thing
devastating to
is
stormtroopers too, because correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't their armor supposed to be resistant to energy blasts?
yes, resistance to energy blast, but that is all.
Yeah, I mean, it would be devastating to have something like a rail gun or a machine gun that's not energy based. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
even a
there's
hell, even a bow and arrow would probably take them out much better. Like, in fact, don't the Ewoks on Endor have bows and arrows and just like start decimating them?
yes, yeah, they basically just completely decimate the army that is sent by the Emperor to Endor in Return of the Jedi.
The technology discrepancy is crazy. They have space travel, warp speed, but they don't have paper. Explain.
I know it's insane.
But as I was saying, the second part of the Death Star secret mission against the Death Star 2, which actually when you think about it makes perfect sense because it's happening like right after you're on the episode 6 mission. You just destroyed the shield
Mhm.
generator, now finish the job.
Yes,
You're
yes,
going through the trenches, having to blast your way through pipes. Not much enemies here. It's more of a race through to survive style kind of mission.
right.
All culminates in what I was saying earlier, a second shield generator inside the Death Star. Funny how no one could attack it from the outside if they had finished building the thing.
It's a
I
good
mean, it
point.
actually brings up a. I've shown you the video before from Dorkly, how they went over one of the
Hmm.
like a Death Star engineer. It shows a
Yes.
Death Star. That proton torpedo had to make a literal 90-degree turn in the tube. I could have fought against that if you people had told me we were fighting against magic space wizards. Funny, it shows the Emperor in his office and stuff like, this guy has a really good point. Maybe we should bring him on for the construction of the Death Star 2. Like, no, it'll be fine. So we're just gonna have the same flaw? No. Actually, in fact, this time, make it starship sized. Like, what is the logic of I'm just saying.
It's true. It's true. It's the themes and plot that Star Wars continues to use of like, okay, we're gonna start small, but guess what? Next time, let's make it bigger and let's make it more ridiculous.
I mean, it seems like the common thread for the good guys is they always seem to underestimate the enemies or leave some glaring flaw.
Yes, correct. Correct.
Like I'd be horror. I mean, like for me, when it comes to bad guys, if you want to do a good one right, have one of those. Like to me, a bad guy is more horrifying and dangerous if they can keep their cool in situations. If they can't lose their cool, those are the ones you have
Yeah.
to worry about. Where if their entire plan is going bad around them, they can still keep their cool. Because when they freak out, they make mistakes. They screw up. The ones
Right.
they're cool
Right.
don't have that difficulty. But when
It's a good point.
they snap, oh, they snap hard.
Right. That's a really good point.
And even then, sometimes it's beautiful in itself to watch. Sometimes the movies
Yes.
take themselves out in such a rage.
That's true. That's a really good point. You see that in Star Wars sometimes too. I think more recently with Kylo Ren, we see that where he could really lose his cool in moments, but he's determined and focused to try to continue on.
But when he's in control, he's pretty much unstoppable.
Yes, yes.
I mean, like Vader seems. From what I've seen in shows and comics and games, Darth Vader's kind of one of those characters too. He's pretty much completely in control, but when you push his buttons, you're done.
You're done. That's it.
Yeah, it's like he could just be toying with you up until that point, but dead.
Yes, essentially. Yeah.
I mean, I heard in Rogue One, he literally just obliterates an entire hallway with just his hands, barely even using any weaponry.
Yep. He basically picks up trooper after trooper and just slices them in half.
It's just crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
It's truly a man to be feared, but yet people don't seem to realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't antagonize.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And let sleeping dogs lie. If you can manage to stop them from freaking out and becoming even stronger, take them out then.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But basically, after that, the final cutscene is you escaping the Death Star to a medal ceremony. It goes through all of your scores, and I think if you're right, if I'm right, you get a ranking like in the military kind of thing. But it's either, for me, my highest, because I don't remember the ranking system, it was either called Field General or Lieutenant General.
Oh, maybe it's Lieutenant General.
Maybe. Because I know
That's really cool, though.
I know I was getting okay scores, so it might have been Field, because I've never been able to get through the game in one coin, and I think continues for a bit.
Right.
Love the game. Still holds up to this day. I don't advocate for piracy, but if you could get a PC emulator to run the game, do so, since it's pretty much out at this point. It's a great game. I recommend it still to this day. I still watch walkthroughs of it online to relive the glory days.
Yes.
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. That's a really great score for it, too. Now,
when it first came out, now I'd give it like 7 out of 10. It hasn't aged perfectly, but it's still a glorious game. It functions perfectly.
Yeah, it does what it needs to do.
With exception to the bonus fights, I mean, if they had smoothed that out, if they had smoothed the stick around more, because it was more like one of those like jagged things that clunks when you get certain points. If they could smooth that out, it would have made the lightsaber controls buttery smooth, and it would easily be 9 out of 10 back then, 8 out of 10 now. But
because of that transition, yeah.
Yeah, because it's really hard for those fights. It's like they're like the only glaring marks on an otherwise great game.
Wow, that's amazing. You've made me reimagine my glory days of playing the original trilogy game, and I'm sure many people who are listening to this podcast, this episode of Make the Jump, are reviving the thoughts of their days in the arcades playing this, and then probably getting a scoop of ice cream after, or doing whatever.
And not just Star Wars, I mentioned other games too.
That's right.
Like, I love the old games back then in the arcades. Like I said, LA Machine Guns, Point Break, Time Crisis, Power Stone, Super Hang On, Outrun, all the old greats back then. You got any old arcade games you want to mention on this list?
I think the one that stands out to me, and it's not necessarily a shooter, Scotty,
It doesn't
but I
matter.
think the one game that, and I love that this came to console, was Crazy Taxi.
Love that game. Apparently, there were sequels made that we never got with more cities.
Yes, yes, that's right. That's what I had heard as well.
I have the GameCube version, which has an extra city in it, but there was another version that was released over in Europe that had like 4 completely new cities and like 8 cabbies.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and we got some PSP. We got a PSP game that had like a unique city in it. Fair Wars. Never played that one,
Right,
but the
right.
soundtrack was glorious.
Yes, I love the Crazy Taxi soundtrack. That was one of my favorites.
And the iconic starting. Hey, hey, hey! Come on, let's all get going for some crazy taxi.
Oh man, that is awesome.
Little thing they don't explain in this thing back then that is really useful. Shift into reverse while holding the accelerator and the brake, shift into drive, let go of the brake, and get a massive power boost forward.
Oh, I remember you doing that when we used to play it. Yeah.
Yeah, on console.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the arcades too, because the console had like more space so it could add more features.
True. True. That's a really good point.
And
Yeah, no.
it was great. We were able to talk like this, doing a review like this. We brought up games, we brought up movies, we brought up television, we brought up a lot of glorious stuff from the old days. It was
Absolutely.
I was honored to be here with you.
Hey man, and that's the best part too, is we always welcome blockaders on, and we always love to have these conversations about what people are into, and reflect on the things that were part of our fandom and part of our loves early on, and to review them and to just build a discussion off of that, whether it's just video games or hey, it spurs off into conversations about television and cartoons and other games that we've enjoyed in our life. And that's what it's all about. It's all about that conversation. And Scotty, it's been so awesome having you here on Make the Jump, and having this conversation, man. It's always so much fun.
It's fun. I'm honored to be here. It was fun. We'll have to do it again sometime. And before we go, I have a quick question for you specifically.
Yes, absolutely.
A while back, we've been talking about it at Krypton a couple times. Maybe you've given it some thought back then. We were considering, since you guys did a Rebel recap, we were considering doing a recap of the Lego Star Wars Freemaker Adventures video show.
Yes,
Like
yes.
from your perspective as someone who's watched the series, and my perspective of someone who just enjoys the show itself. Like we would do the first half of like a review of the show, and so to speak, in its own capacity, and then the second half you would take the lead, and you would be talking about like it in the greater world, like with the movies and all of that stuff.
Yes, correct.
I would still love to do that with you if you are open to it.
I will tell the blockaders right now, and I will tell you right now, Scotty, stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned.
I think it's plug time for you. I can't do any of my plugs right now. In lieu of a plug for myself, I'd like to put one out for something else, a community that I am a member of. If you
Yes, absolutely.
the Special Olympics.
Yes.
Proud member. I have been a runner in it for many years in the track and field division. I do the standing long jump, the javelin, the 100-meter dash, and oh my god, the one time I do this and I'm blanking. 100-meter dash, standing long jump, javelin, and shot put. Shot put, that was it.
Yes.
And occasionally I am brought in as a backup for the relay races. It's a great
Nice.
organization. I love being a member of it. They really care. They give people like me who have mental disabilities and issues being out in public a safe place to be, to grow, to be part of a community, and to basically do things that we wouldn't normally be able to do. It's a great organization, and I have heard rumors that some politicians are attempting massive pay cuts in it, which destroy it. I know it's silly, but I wish everyone out there could hope them the best, maybe send them an encouraging letter or two to help them stay afloat out there. It's a beautiful organization that I love being a part of, and it helps so many people out there.
Yeah, it does. Brick City Blockade, and Scotty, as being a special educator myself, it means a lot to me too. And if the Brick City Blockade ever can help out with Special Olympics or giving back in that way as well, it means so much to us. And I thank you for that shout out, because I don't think sometimes that organization gets a lot of that and gets a lot of recognition. and you being a part of it and being a main contributor, especially to the New Hampshire Special Olympics, it is
I'm
amazing.
a contributor. I'm a member and an athlete.
That's even better.
The emotions that myself and these other kids feel when they're out there, rushing to their goals, trying to win, to try their hardest to be just a little bit better than everyone else. The looks on their faces when they get those gold medals, when they see those cops coming in with that ceremonial flame, when they get those awards, when they pull off those jumps, it brings a tear to my eye. And
Yeah.
I'd hate to see that go away.
Yeah.
Special Olympics, training for that has helped me out of some very dark holes in my life, knowing that I have something to live for, to keep trying.
Oh man, that is so awesome to hear. And we encourage all of our listeners and whoever else is out there. And hey, maybe you do stuff with the Special Olympics if you're a blockader and you're a listener as well. Keep doing what you're doing. We will continue to support that organization. And me, myself, as a special educator, I always encourage the students that I work with to always consider Special Olympics as an outlet for not just outreach, but as a way of connecting with other individuals and boosting your confidence and finding your way through life, especially if it's in a place and time where you really need to find it and you really just need that extra bit of guidance.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of doing the penguin plunge next year. I
Ah,
would have done it this year, but they sent me the letter 2 days before it closed.
oh,
So I never would have been able to get the 300 in donations and the $50, my $50 fee in time.
right, right.
Here I'm going to keep a close eye out. Maybe I'll be able to compete. I'd be happy to do it.
That's awesome.
Money.
Yeah,
Enough about me.
awesome. Well,
Time for you to do more plugs.
yeah, so you guys can follow me over on Twitter at Mr. Vote Tweets. Please make sure to check out my Instagram at The Official Vote, www.brickcityblockade.com for everything happening in that galaxy far, far away. Patreon to support the network, TeePublic to rock the network, and of course Starlight Children's Foundation and Brick City Blockades. Sorry, I messed that up completely. Our Galaxy,
Off on you.
it's our Galaxy of Joy program from Starlight and Brick City Blockade, bringing smiles to kids' faces in hospitals around the country every cent at a time.
Before we get going, one last plug. You guys have Celebration Lancaster coming up next month.
Yes, yes.
Else,
Yeah, April 13th, Saturday, April 13th.
I might try and get down there. I mean, it's only 2 train rides away, technically. I could go down.
Yeah.
I could leave Exeter at like 11 p.m., get down there around noon, take a walk down, then walk back to the train station and take a nap on the way back.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Due to events beyond my control, I will not be attending Animate Boston this year, so I have a free open that time. I would love to come down,
Wow.
help. Anything you'd like to say about the thing to the people listening still?
Yeah, no, Saturday, April 13th, Celebration Lancaster. It's an amazing event to help the homeless in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And Rebel Cause Lancaster does some amazing, amazing work with the Water Street Mission to make sure that people on the streets who don't really have much or anything have an opportunity to have a meal or to have a place to stay or to get the help that they need. And all the funds and all the proceeds are going to go towards helping those individuals in that city because they really need it, which is great.
Well, do you want to say it, or shall I do the honors?
I think you should do the honors.
What was that?
It's okay. It was a remote that fell on the floor.
The dark side does not want you to have me the honors, it sounds like. It is.
You're good.
Here from everyone at Brick City Blockade, may the Force be with you. I don't have a lightsaber, but I use this for a Star Wars cosplay. It's good enough.
Always.
I made an OC trooper. Like, it was a stealth trooper. It was all black with red highlights and swords, to getting through armor. Like that little thing I said earlier. Energy resistant. It's basically just high-tech plastic. Stab right through it.
May the Force be with you.
Always.